सब्सक्राइब कीजिए ये ट्यूटोरियल चैनल को और बेल आइकन को दबाइए सबसे पहले एजुकेशनल वीडियोस देखने के लिए। Hi everybody, this is Sanjay. Today I am going to teach you the first chapter from Political Science from Standard 7. Our first chapter is on equality. So let's start. India's democracy. In class 6 book, we looked at the key element of a democratic government. These include people's participation, the resolution of conflict, and equality and justice. Equality is a key feature of democracy and influences all aspects of its functioning. In this chapter, you read more about equality. What is it? Why it is important in a democracy? And whether or not even everyone is equal in the India. Let's begin by looking at Kanta's story. On election day, Kanta and her friend Sujata are waiting to cast their votes. Isn't it good, Suja, that we can all vote as equal citizens of our country? Even Jain Sahib is standing in the line with us? Yes. Go on, Kanta, it's your turn. I will vote for the candidate who has the promise to bring pipe water to our area. तो ये कह रहे हैं कि मैं वोट दूंगा उसी को जो मेरे एरिया में पाइपलाइन लाएगा, पाइप वाटर लाएगा. Afterwards, we'll see you later, कांता. मैं कांता में बाद में देखूंगा. Yes, नमस्ते साहिब. गुड़िया has been running fever. गुड़िया को रनिंग मतलब फीवर हुआ है. And I have to take her to hospital. मैं उसको हॉस्पिटल लेना पड़ेगा मेरे को. But I will have to finish the work at Sahib's house first and ask for some advance. मैं उस पहले साहिब का अगर जो काम उसको पहले खत्म करना पड़ेगा, उसके बाद मेरे को कुछ पैसा मांगूंगा जो एडवांस होगा. At home. Here, have some this, you will feel better. ये थोड़ा लीजिए और आपको अच्छा फील होगा. And when I get back in evening, we will go to the hospital. जब मैं शाम को लौटूंगा, हॉस्पिटल जाएंगे. It's no wonder that गुड़िया falls ill often. The बस्ती is never cleaned. बस्ती never clean होता है, मतलब कभी clean नहीं होता, इसीलिए गुड़िया ill हो जाता है, अस्वस्थ हो जाता है. Make sure to do corners properly. उसको कहता है कि कॉर्नर को अच्छे से पोछा लगाओ. Here is your advance, Kanta, but don't make a habit of it. No, madam. That evening. First, let's read this. What is written? Equal right to vote. The story above begins with Kanta standing in the line to cast her vote. तो ये स्टोरी शुरुआत होता है जब कांता खड़ी होती है वोट करने के लिए, अपनी वोट देने के लिए. Look again at the various people who are standing in the line with her. तो अगेन देखिए उस लाइन को. कांता रिकॉग्नाइज हर एम्प्लॉयर. कांता अपनी एम्प्लॉयर को पहचानती है. अशोक जैन, छोटे लाल, हर नेबर. In a democratic country like India, all adults, irrespective of what religion they belong to. तो यहाँ पे क्या होता है कि वो किसी भी रिलीजन में हो क्यों ना हो, how much education they have had, कितना भी उनके पास शिक्षा हो, what caste they are, उनका कोई भी कास्ट हो, और whether they are rich or poor are allowed to vote. तो वो गरीब है या रिच है, उनको ही वोट देना पड़ता है. कोई भी वोट दे सकता है यहाँ पे, लेकिन वो एडल्ट होना चाहिए, more than 8 years होना चाहिए, 18 years. This, as you have already read in class 6 book, is called universal adult franchise and is an essential aspect of all democracies. The idea of universal adult franchise is based on the idea of equality because it states that every adult in a country, irrespective of their wealth and communities she or he belongs to, has one vote. Kanta is excited to vote and happy that she is equal to all of the others because each of them has one vote. But as her days goes on, Kanta becomes less certain about what this equality really means. तो उसको पता नहीं चल रहा है कि ये इक्वालिटी होता क्या है. What is it that makes Kanta unsure? Let's take a look at the day in her life. She lives in a slum and has drain behind her house. तो स्लम एरिया में रहता है, मतलब बस्ती एरिया में, एंड उसके घर के पीछे एक ड्रेन है. हर डॉटर इज सिक, उसका डॉटर सिक होता है, but she cannot take day off from work because she needs to borrow money from her employer to take her child to the doctor. Her job as domestic help tires her out. And finally, she ends her day by again standing in a long line. This line in front of the government hospital is unlike the one in the morning because of most of the people standing in it are poor. Other kinds of inequality. Kanta is one of the many people who live in democratic India and who have the right to vote but whose daily living and working conditions are far from equal. तो कांता की जैसे लोग बहुत इंडिया में है, जो डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री में हम रह रहे हैं, तो उनको तो वोट देने का अधिकार है, लेकिन वो जो डेली लिविंग है, वर्किंग कंडीशंस है, वो इक्वालिटी से बाहर है, बहुत दूर है. अपार्ट फ्रॉम बीइंग पोर, पूर होने के पश्चात पीपल इन इंडिया एक्सपीरियंस इनइक्वालिटी इन डिफरेंट वेज. जो इंडिया के लोग हैं वो एक्सपीरियंस करते हैं इनइक्वालिटी इन डिफरेंट वेज. लेट अस सी व्हाट दिस मीन्स बाय रीडिंग द टू स्टोरीज गिवन बिलो. तो हम ये जो स्टोरी है उसको पढ़कर आप बता सकते हैं. ईच ऑफ दीज इज बेस्ड ऑन रियल इंसिडेंट्स in people's life and reflects the different kinds of inequalities that exist in India. Let's see. One of the more common forms of inequality in India is caste system. तो ये very severe inequality है. हम बता सकते हैं कि वो caste system है. Caste. If you live in rural India, your caste identity is something that you probably learned or experienced very young. If you live in the urban area, some of you might think that people no longer believe in caste. अगर आप गांव में रहते हैं तो आप लोगों के लिए ये जो कास्ट सिस्टम है बहुत तकलीफ देगा. अगर आप शहर में रह रहे हैं तो ये कोई मायने नहीं रखता. बस जस्ट लुक एट दिस मैट्रिमोनियल shown from a leading English newspaper and you will see how important this issue of caste continues to be in the minds of highly educated urban Indians. You can see here alliance invited for like this 32 and 5 4 fair beautiful working like this matrimonial sites they are just looking for as their category. Now let us read a story about the experience of a Dalit child attending a school. You have already read about Dalit in the class 6 book. Dalit is a term that so-called lower caste used to address themselves. दलित का मतलब है बहुत सारे बहुत नीचे लोगों को, मतलब बहुत लोअर कास्ट जो होते हैं उनको एड्रेस करने के लिए हम यूज करते हैं दलित. दलित मीन्स ब्रोकन एंड बाय यूजिंग दिस वर्ड लोअर कास्ट आर पॉइंटिंग टू हाउ दे वेयर एंड कंटिन्यू टू बी seriously discriminated against. Om Prakash Valmiki is famous Dalit writer. In his autobiography, Jithan, he writes, I had to sit away from the others in the class. तो वो कहते हैं कि मेरे को जब मैं स्कूल में पढ़ता था, क्लास के जो क्लास में बैठते हैं उनसे दूर मेरे को बैठना पड़ता था. And that too on the floor. The mat ran out before the reaching the spot I sat on. Sometimes I would have to sit way behind everybody, right near the door. Sometimes they would beat me without any reason. Sometimes वो मेरे को पीटते थे any reason के कारण, बिना कारण मेरे को पीटते थे. When he was in class 4, headmaster asked Om Prakash to sweep the school and playground. तो जब मैं 4 क्लास में था, 4th क्लास में था, तो मेरे को मेरे टीचर मतलब जो हेडमास्टर थे वो मेरे को स्कूल एंड प्लेग्राउंड सफाई करने के लिए बोले थे. He writes the playground was way larger than my small physique could handle, and in cleaning it, my back began to ache. My face was covered with dust. Dust had gone inside my mouth. The other children in my class were studying, and I was sweeping. Headmaster was sitting in his room and watching me. वो हेडमास्टर वहाँ पे उनके रूम में बैठे थे और मेरे को देख रहे थे. आई वॉज नॉट इवन अलाउड टू गेट ड्रिंक ऑफ वाटर. तो मेरे को एक पानी पीने को भी अलाउ नहीं था. आई स्वेप्ट ऑल डे. मैं पूरा स्वेप्ट किया, मतलब झाड़ू लगाया पूरा दिन. फ्रॉम द डोर्स एंड विंडोज ऑफ द स्कूल रूम्स, eyes of the teachers and boys saw this spectacle. Om Prakash was made to sweep the school and playground for next couple of days, and this only came to an end when his father, who happened to be passing by, saw his son sweeping. He confronted the teachers and then walking away from the school holding Om Prakash's hand. He said loudly for all of them to hear, "You are a teacher, आप एक teacher हो. I am leaving now, but remember this much faster. He will study right here in this school, and not just him, but there will be more coming after him." The second story is based on an incident that took place in one India's largest city and is common practice in most parts of the country. It is a story about Mr. and Mrs. Ansari who were looking to rent an apartment in the city. तो वो रेंट के लिए वो अपार्टमेंट ढूंढ रहे थे. They had money and so paying rent was no problem. They went to a property dealer to help find a place. The dealer informed them that he knew about quite a different apartments that were available for rent. They visited the first apartment and the Ansaris liked it very much and decided to take it. However, when the landlady found out their names, she made an excuse about how she could not rent the house to someone who ate meat because the building did not have any non-vegetarian residents. जब जब उनको पता चला कि ये लोग नॉन वेजिटेरियन है तो वो एक्सक्यूजेस बनाए कि जैसे कि घर ना रेंट में दिए. Both the Ansaris and the property dealer were surprised to hear this because they could smell fish being cooked in the neighbor's house. The same excuse was repeated in the second and third apartments. Finally, the property dealer told them that they might want to change their names and call themselves Mr. and Mrs. Kumar. The Ansaris were reluctant to do this and they decided to look some more. In the end, it took a whole month of looking at apartments before they found a landlady who was willing to give them a place on rent. तो उनको नाम चेंज करना पड़ा घर भाड़े में लेने के लिए. सोचिए कैसा इनइक्वालिटी है इंडिया का. Recognizing dignity. We've understood by now that the caste we are born into, the religion we practice, the class background we come from, whether we are male or female, these are often things that determine why some people are treated unequally. Om Prakash Balmiki and Ansaris are being treated unequally on the basis of differences of caste and religion. उनका जो caste और religion था, इसीलिए उनको inequality का treat किया गया. When person are treated unequally, their dignity is violated. अगर किसी इंसान के अनइक्वालिटी ट्रीट करता है, अनइक्वालिटी से हम ट्रीट करते हैं तो उसका जो डिग्निटी है वो वायोलेट होता है. The dignity of both umpires Valmiki and Ansari were violated because of the way in which they were treated. By picking on him and making him sweep the school, because of this his caste, Om Prakash Valmiki's schoolmates and teachers hurt his dignity badly and made him feel as he was less than equal to all other students in the school. Being a child, Om Prakash Valmiki could do very little about the situation that he was in. He was his father who, on seeing his own son sweep, felt angry by the unequal treatment and confronted the teachers. The Ansari's dignity was also hurt when persons refused to lease their apartments to them. However, when the property dealer suggested that they change their name, it was their dignity or self-respect that made them refuse this suggestion. Om Prakash and Ansaris do not deserve to be treated like this. They deserve the same respect and dignity as anyone else. जैसे कि अलग लोगों को जैसे कि उनका respect and dignity मिलता है, तो यहाँ पे भी ओम प्रकाश and अंसारी को same respect, same चीज deserve से मिलना चाहिए. Equality in Indian democracy. The Indian constitution recognizes every person as equal. This means that every individual in the country, including male or female persons from all castes, religions, tribes, educational and economic backgrounds, are recognized as equal. This is not to say that inequality ceases to exist. It doesn't. But at least in democratic India, the principle of equality of all persons is recognized. While earlier no law existed to protect people from discrimination and ill treatment, now there are several that work to see that people are treated with dignity and as equals. तो पहले रूल्स नहीं था, लेकिन अभी अभी रूल्स बहुत सारे लॉन्च हुआ है जो बता सकता है कि अगर किसी इंसान को डिग्निटी या इनइक्वालिटी दिया गया है तो इसका पूरा लॉ बनाया गया है, तो उसको कभी हम उसको इल ट्रीट नहीं कर सकते. This recognition of equality includes some of the following provisions in the Constitution. First, that every person is equal before the law. Law के सामने हर व्यक्ति वो समान होता है. What this means is that every person from the president of our country to कांता, मतलब प्रेसिडेंट के जो हमारे जो राष्ट्रपति होते हैं, कांता, डोमेस्टिक वर्कर हैज टू ओबे द सेम लॉ. सबका सेम लॉ होता है. सेकंड, नो पर्सन कैन बी डिस्क्रिमिनेटेड अगेंस्ट ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ रिलीजन, रेस, कास्ट, place of birth, or whether they are female or male. Third, every person has access to all the public places including playgrounds, hotels, shops, markets. All persons can use publicly available wells, roads, bathing ghats. Fourth, untouchability has been abolished. The untouchability, अछूआ, छूत, उसको भी abolish कर दिया है. The two ways in which the government has tried to implement the equality that is guaranteed in the constitution is the first through the laws and second through the government programs or schemes to help the disadvantaged communities. तो इसको रोकने के लिए, इसको जो इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए, जो इक्वालिटी को इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए सरकार ने जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन दो तरीके से अपनाया है. दो तरीका, पहला है लॉज एंड सेकंड है गवर्नमेंट प्रोग्राम्स और स्कीम टू हेल्प disadvantaged communities. These are several laws in India that protect every person's right to be treated equally. In addition to laws, the government has also set up several schemes to improve the lives of communities and individuals who have been treated unequally for several centuries. These schemes are to ensure greater opportunity for people who have not had this in the past. One of the steps taken by the government includes the midday meal scheme. This refers to the program introduced in all government elementary schools to provide children with cooked lunch. Tamil Nadu was the first state in India to introduce this scheme, and in 2001, Supreme Court asked all the state government to begin this program in their schools within 6 months. This program has also had many positive effects. These include the fact that more poor children have begun enrolling and regularly attending school. Teachers reported that earlier children would often go home for lunch and then not return to school, but now with the midday meal being provided in school, their attendance has improved. उनका जो attendance वो improve हुआ है क्योंकि वो खाना उनको midday meal school में दिया जाता है. Their mothers who earlier had to interrupt their work to feed their children at home during the day now no longer need to do so. This program has also helped reduce the caste prejudice because both lower and upper caste children in the school eat this meal together, and in quite few places, Dalit women have been employed to cook the meal. The midday meal program also helps reduce the hunger of poor students who often come to school and cannot concentrate because their stomachs are empty. While government programs play an important role in increasing equality of opportunity, there is much that still needs to be done. While the midday meal programs has helped increase the enrollment and attendance of poor children in school, there continues to be big differences in our country between schools that the rich attend and those that poor attend. When today there are several schools in the country in which Dalit children like Om Prakash Valmiki are discriminated against, the treated unequally, तो बहुत सारे स्कूल ऐसा भी इंडिया में हैं जो जैसे कि ओम प्रकाश वाल्मीकि बच्चे उनका जो उनको जो ट्रीट करते हैं अनइक्वली, वैसा भी बहुत सारे बच्चे हैं जो उनको अनट्रीट किया जाता है. The children are forced into an unequal situation in which their dignity is not respected. This is because people refuse to think of them as equal even though the law requires it. One of the main reasons for this is that attitudes change very slowly. Even though persons are aware that discrimination is against the law, they continue to treat people unequally on the basis of their caste, religion, disability, economic status, and because they are women. It is only when the people begin to believe that no one is inferior and that every person deserves to be treated with dignity that present attitudes can change. Establishing equality in a democratic society is a continuous struggle, and no one in which individuals as well as various communities in India contribute to, and you will read more about this in this book. Issues of equality in other democracies. You are probably wondering whether India is only democratic country in which there is inequality and where the struggle for equality continues to exist. The truth is that in many democratic countries around the world, issue of equality continues to be key issue around which communities struggle so far in the United States of America. The African American whose ancestors were the slaves who were brought over from Africa continues to describe their lives today as largely unequal. This despite the fact that there was a movement in the late 1950s to push up for equal rights for African Americans. Prior to this, African Americans were treated extremely unequally in United States and denied equality through law. For example, when traveling by bus, they either had to sit at the back of the bus or get up from their seat whenever a white person wished to sit. Rosa Parks was an African American woman. Tired from a long day at work, she refused to give up her seat on a bus to a white man. तो दिसंबर 1 1955 में क्या हुआ कि एक रोजा पार्क्स वो अपनी काम से बहुत टायर्ड हो चुकी थी और उसने मना कर दिया कि मैं आपकी मेरा सीट नहीं दूंगा. Her refusal led they started a huge agitation against the unequal ways in which African Americans were treated and which came to be known civil rights movement. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibited discrimination on the basis of race, religion, and national origin. It also stated that all schools would be open to African American children and that they would no longer have to attend separate schools specially set up for them. However, despite this, a majority of African American continues to be among the poorest in the country. Most African American children can only afford to attend the government schools that have fewer facilities and poor qualified teachers as compared to white students who either go to private schools or live in the areas where the government schools are as highly rated as private schools. Now, challenge of democracy. What is the challenge? यहाँ पे ध्यान से सुनिए कि आई डिडंट टेल यू इन हिंदी समवेयर. मैं आपको हिंदी में नहीं बताया क्योंकि ये वीडियो थोड़ा लेंथी हो जाता. तो अगर आपको कोई भी डाउट्स है रिगार्डिंग दैट पैराग्राफ्स यू कैन राइट इन द कमेंट सेक्शन. आई विल मेक यू अंडरस्टैंड. इट्स माय प्रॉमिस. नाउ लेट्स सी चैलेंज ऑफ डेमोक्रेसी. तो डेमोक्रेसी का चैलेंज क्या होता है? नो कंट्री कैन बी डिस्क्राइब्ड एज बीइंग कंप्लीटली डेमोक्रेटिक. तो ऐसा भी कोई कंट्री नहीं है तो हम उसको कंप्लीटली डेमोक्रेटिक बोल सकते हैं. देयर आर ऑलवेज कम्युनिटीज एंड इंडिविजुअल्स ट्राइंग टू एक्सपैंड द आइडिया of democracy and push for a greater recognition of equality on the existing as well as in new issues. Central to this is the struggle for the recognition of all the persons are equal and for their dignity to be maintained. In this book, you will read about how this issue of equality affects various aspects of our daily lives in democratic India. As you read this chapter, think about whether the equality of a person and their being able to maintain their dignity is upheld. तो जो आप इस चैप्टर में पढ़े तो आपको यहाँ पे पता चल गया होगा कि डेमोक्रेसी क्या है, कितना तक मतलब कितना इक्वालिटी है. तो ये आपको अंदाज़ा लग सकता है कि इंडिया में कैसा हो रहा है. तो अगर आपको ये वीडियो अच्छा लगा तो लाइक बटन पे एक लाइक कीजिए और अगर आपका कोई भी डाउट्स हो सजेशन हो तो आप कमेंट सेक्शन में लिखिए. मैं आपसे बात करूँगा. थैंक यू फॉर वॉचिंग दिस वीडियो. थैंक यू.